So my name is Jay, and I live in the United States. I work as a executive analyst in HR. I've been doing that for about 30 years. I am legally blind. I have a little bit of vision, but not enough to read text or see stuff without some type of magnification or other technology. So I utilize Ali on my iPhone as the iOS app. And so far, I've been very pleased with the application. It has fantastic responsiveness. It's very quick as far as responding to questions. It is very quick and thorough for image identification. And with our current state of artificial intelligence, the the web search application ability and the ability to actually carry out a real-time conversation are quite cutting edge from what exists in OpenAI or Claude or other things of the current flagship nature. The video recognition is really top notch. There are no other applications I'm aware of that can really do this in real time. Typically, they take 20 to 30 seconds to process the image. They'll provide you some information about it, and then you can ask questions. But it's having a full speech output very quickly of the image simply by asking the Ally application to do it is really a unique ability of the application. So really, on a day-to-day basis, when you have a vision impairment, seeing simple things through to complicated things are very valuable, especially if you are mobile. You can't really bring around a magnifier. You can't really bring around a lot of other tools that you're going to need outside of your typical workspace. This is really a huge advantage for basic livability, I think is the easiest way to describe it. And I'll give you one quick example and then we can kind of talk in a little bit more detail. So I had a business flight last week. I had to travel by myself, which again is no big deal, but there's a lot of things that you encounter during that process that you know, make life more difficult. And there's a lot of things that people with vision take for granted that they do very easily, which are quality of life things that Ally really does make possible. So, for example, there's this complicated button array to control my seat for the flight. And normally, well, you can kind of push all the buttons and see what happens, but to really have an ability to understand like what they all do, Ally was amazing. And really just kind of aiming it at the display and pushing the button and having the interaction was a very valuable thing where it could say this adjusts the headrest and this moves up your feet and during the night this is going to flatten your seat out and this is going to bring it up and this turns your lights on and this button calls the stewardess if you need assistance. This is the volume for your audio visual input, all those type of things. It really helped to simplify something that a normal person with vision would simply look at the display and see those symbols and really have an easy way of understanding what they are. But when there's no braille or other tactile information on them and they're all just little flat plastic squares, they mean nothing. And Ali was really great because again, they're not really labeled. They have symbols on them and the application was able to visually interpret those symbols and provide accurate information about what those functions related to those symbols meant and give me the ability to have greater independence. And at the end of the day, I think that's really the greatest strength of this application is to provide independence to individuals that have a vision impairment. Something as simple as like reading the mail. Can I carry it all upstairs and put it under my magnifier and read it? Sure, but it's also much easier to have it on the table when it comes in and hold Ally up over it and say, "What is this? What is this? What is this?" And it'll basically tell me, "Oh, that's your electric bill. Oh, that's a letter from so and so." And then I can be able to sort it very quickly and realize what's important and what's not, what I need to examine in more detail, and what maybe I do need to take a look at or have like OCR read through in more detail for me. So the application again, I've used many times on simple things from what is in this can, tell me the label to, oh, I'm going out with my buddies and I've got, 30 t-shirts downstairs. What's on the front of this t-shirt? Is this the band that I want to be wearing to the show I'm going to? So it's very great for a lot of simple tasks that have a huge impact upon the quality of life of the user. And I think the more it has greater integration as far as ability to remember pictures, the ability, and I know I'm talking very cutting edge here, but the ability to process video in addition to strictly stock images, stock maybe is not the right word, static, I think is the word I'm looking for, static images. Um, would make it even more amazing if I'm moving my hand around a display and it's like saying, what's this button? And it could just kind of tell me as I pointed in real time, even better, but it still does a great job and is an amazing step in the right direction. And we're very fortunate, or I'm very fortunate, I should say, as a visually impaired user to have access to this type of technology that 5 years ago didn't exist. And really there were many more barriers that existed in the world for people with vision impairments that are really coming down now because of this type of technology. So I do like the customizable version of the assistant. I have played with a few options and shared some information with the assistant about my interests, a little bit about myself to provide some context. And I think it's a very nice idea, and I think that expanding on it would be very valuable. Um, it does reference that data when it talks to me. Um, if it could utilize some more of that information in searches, that would be a value added to the situation. For example, and I'm making this up, but I don't have like a dietary restriction. But let's say somebody does, like my mom is gluten free. Um, if I gave it that information and she looked at a menu and asked, what are the options, and it was smart enough to look and basically say, oh, I know that you're gluten free, so therefore I'm going to give you those options only. That would be a much bigger value, I think, if it could integrate some of that more information into the processing. Again, I've kind of mentioned things to it, and it does bring them up in conversation. Um, and I think that is nice um, style, but I don't know if it's as much substance, and that there may be more to that as I continue to investigate it more, or there's more programming that you guys can do. Um, but I think that the beauty of any personal assistant, truly personal assistant, is really to know your preferences and be able to react to those preferences and needs. And I think as an individual with a vision impairment, there's a lot of value to that. If it was able to basically tell the difference, if I have told that I'm visually impaired, and that I can see, a little bit of movement and light. If someone else said they were completely blind, would it change the responses that it provided to those individuals, and would the assistance be more customizable? I don't know the answer to that, and hopefully it's something you guys have tested, but I haven't really seen a strong correlation between the information I put in and the way that the app organizes and provides responses to me outside of just kind of referencing that information, which again is nice as far as atmosphere is concerned, but as far as like true quality value added to my experience, there's something to look at. I think in my mind, there's kind of like two halves to the equation, and one is, you know, do I like my assistant, and how much does my assistant help me? And those are both valuable, but they're both independent. And I think the value added really in my mind, again, this is my mind using it more in a professional setting, does kind of trump the do I like my assistant? Do I like my assistant? That's nice. And the more I like it and the more personal it is and more it knows me, I think in the future, as that is flushed out, the more valuable it'll become. But at this point in time, I think the information that I'm entering in really should enhance the responses that it provides to me and tailor the information that it gives me from information, because that's really where I'm going to gain value out of the customization options in my mind. Um, this is the first Envision product that I've worked with. I've used other applications that I don't want to say do the same thing because they don't, but are designed to assist, the visually impaired. Like, so I've kind of worked with those in the past. I think that, y- you know. there was limited ability to use them outside of a human assistant, which don't get me wrong is fantastic. Um, but as AI has developed further, I think something like Ali has a greater capacity to really meet a lot of the needs of the visually impaired community, simply because that technology for interpretation, image interpretation, searches on the web, other information and data, it really, again, as I said, does add to the quality of life of a person with a vision impairment. Um, because again, I think the goal to any application, to any tool that's going to improve our quality of life, is it obtain data for us in a faster, easier manner, and can it help us interact with the real world, quote unquote, the sighted world, more efficiently? And I think those are really the goals in my mind of any really effective application, because the problem is that, well, we need to see it. We need to see, understand what we're not seeing, and we need that information relayed to us. And the video, well, it's not video, pardon me, the image capture does that. And again, I'm very pleased with it. Does it very quickly. The descriptions are detailed, and that's a fantastic tool that really does make my everyday life better, simpler, and does provide quality of life. Web searches, can I go into my phone and open it up and go on Google and search for something? Sure, of course I can. Um, but this does provide, a quicker web search option, and does look up stuff and kind of give you more details. And, when you're visually impaired, sometimes just kind of navigating through a site, if I'm going to Amazon and looking at a product, and I need to find physically on that page where the reviews are, that is a little bit more difficult for someone with a vision impairment, because the majority of work from somebody that has a vision impairment is memorization. If I've gone to a site twice, then the second time is so much easier, because I've just memorized everything and I'm not really looking. I'm really going by memory. But in certain situations, you can't do that. If you're going to a page for the first time and I need to find the reviews, I kind of know they're generally at the bottom. I can kind of scroll down, but I don't really know. I have to kind of like move around with the voiceover on my phone and find it. To ask Ali, it's so much easier, simply because it can go and it can look and it can read them back to me, and then I can ask them some questions about it. And to have that ability to extract valuable data and present it to me verbally is immensely valuable. To have the ability for me to ask follow-up questions about that data and provide answers to that, again, all through speech to text and text to speech, is very, very valuable. These are great tools that it provides. Other information, news a little rocky. It tries. Its news search it gave me a list of stories, and I think it was more a function of how it was pulling them as an AI than Ali itself. But it really, it's overall, it's an amazing application. And as I said, there's a lot of use cases right now, and I think that there's many more potential use cases for it in the future to assist people with a vision impairment. And I think, if we really want to talk about like two great examples where Ally provides assistance to me, um, in a professional setting, when I'm moving around a lot, it's very valuable for document information and review. And that is really the number one use case of the application for me. I have a little bit of vision, but an handheld magnifier, it takes longer to just scan something and kind of get a sense of what it is. I have a desktop magnifier, but it's desktop. It's not really portable. So simply aiming my cell phone camera at something and asking Ali, what is this, is fantastic. It'll give me a quick summary of the document and let me know what it is, and then that allows me to know what do I need to do with that specific item. Um, Most things are electronic and email these days, but you still get a lot of things printed out and handed to you or left on your desk. And it really does help out with that if you're, again, going somewhere or going around or doing different things. Um, in addition to that, again, when you are kind of moving around and going different areas. It's fantastic again for simple reading of signs. Um, for example, I was going into the hotel and they're legally all supposed to have braille for the numbers for the rooms, but it didn't. Um, so it was very easy to kind of aim my camera at the hallway and ask, what are the room numbers that you see? And it told me to kind of give me an idea. Usually next to the elevator, there's like room, 500 through 520 in this direction. Well, I don't know that unless I can read it. So at least it told me like what direction to go in. So I knew what hallway to walk down. And then I could kind of aim it at a few doors and be like, what room is this? What room is this? Until I found the room that I was going to be in. Again, continuing with that example, when you're at home, you know where everything is and what everything does. But something as simple as setting the thermostat in your hotel room, if you've never used it before, the buttons, you have no idea what button does what. You can't read the display. It's very difficult, but it's really easy with Ali. Again, simply aiming the camera, saying, tell me about this thermostat. What is it set to? And then even if it can't describe the buttons, which usually it can, and you can ask, what is the layout of the controls? And it's usually very good about telling you there's four buttons, and this one is up and this is down, and whatever the case may be. And then adjusting it and then asking, okay, what is the temperature that the thermostat is set to now? And it'll tell you that. And that information is impossible to gain without something like this, because again, if you have a handheld magnifier, sometimes it's hard to read. Sometimes you can't really understand what you're looking at. It's like an LED display. It's not bright. It's difficult to really have this tell you that. Again, quality of life, something as simple as changing the temperature in your hotel room to make it more comfortable. Again, without Ali, it's almost impossible. And now is a simple thing that takes you 30 seconds.